So it's time to start your essay for To Kill a Mockingbird, and this video is going to help you with your introduction paragraph. Before we begin, I want to take a look at what your prompt is versus the prompt I'm going to write my essay on, because we're going to use different prompts. So your prompt is asking, does it make sense for Atticus to take a stand to defend Tom Robinson? And you'll base all of that based on what you know of Atticus as a character. I'm going to do a very similar prompt. Just to give you an example, my prompt is going to be, does it make sense for Boo Radley to take a stand to save Jem and Scout? And this is at the end of the book when he comes in and saves Jem and Scout when Bob Ewell's trying to attack them. So two different situations, but my essay will be very similar to yours. Now, in your introduction, there are three parts that you need. First of all, you need the hook to grab the reader's attention, then some background where you kind of explain what's going on in the book and what the book is, and then you're going to need a thesis or a claim where you basically either say, yes, it does make sense, or no, it does not make sense for this character to do that. First, your hook. There are three types of hooks that we're going to try in this, and you can choose one of these that works for you. So one way you could start your hook would be to ask a question. So for instance, maybe I could ask a question like, what does it mean for a person to be true to himself or herself? Because that's what this is really about, is are Atticus and Boo being true to themselves when they defend Tom Robinson in Atticus's case, or when they save Jem and Scout in Boo's case? Or I could start with an anecdote, which means story, or a scene. In other words, I could start by giving a scene from the book that relates to this situation. So for Atticus, it could be a scene about him defending Tom Robinson. And for Boo Radley, I'm going to talk about the scene where it says when Boo Radley ran out of his house with a kitchen knife to defend Scout and Jem, and then I'd continue that sentence. So I could start with an interesting scene from the book. Or lastly, just an interesting statement, like Boo Radley is a mysterious character. Or you could come up with a statement about Atticus. Just something to get the reader interested at the start. For me, I ended up choosing the sentence or the starter of the anecdote or the scene. So my first sentence is going to say, when Boo Radley ran out of his house with a kitchen knife to save Jem and Scout, it may have seemed like an odd thing for a recluse like Boo to do. And recluse means somebody who doesn't leave their home. So that's my first sentence. Then, after that, I need to go into the background. For the background, I'm looking for title and author, a quick summary of the book, and I need to talk about the prompt, the situation in the prompt. In other words, in your case, that Atticus is defending Tom Robinson, and in my case, the scene where Boo saves Jem and Scout. So this is what my background is going to look like. If you see where the orange arrow is, it begins and says, for most of Harper Lee's novel To Kill a Mockingbird, Scout, the narrator, focuses on how frightening and ghost-like Boo Radley is. However, we learn throughout the novel that Boo is paying attention to Scout and her brother Jem while they play games and endure the difficulty of the Tom Robinson trial, which sees their father Atticus attempt to defend an innocent black man against a false accusation of rape. At the end of the trial, Bob Ewell, the father of Mayella, Tom's accuser, is so upset at Atticus's defense of Tom that he attacks Jem and Scout. It is at this point that Boo Radley runs out of his house and saves the kids by killing Bob Ewell. So I have all my parts in there. I have the title and author. I've given you a little summary of the book. I've hinted at what happens in the book. You're going to focus much more on the Tom Robinson trial than I do because I'm talking about Boo, but you're talking about Atticus. And then I get to the part of the prompt. In my case, it's how Boo saves Jem and Scout. And in your case, the prompt is going to be about how Atticus decides to defend Tom. And now, it's time to write your claim, which is basically the answer to the prompt question. So all your claim is essentially saying yes or no, they should or they should not defend Tom Robinson in your case, or in my case, that Boo should or should not save the kids. And when I do this, I'm going to acknowledge the other point of view. So mine's going to start by saying, though some people would argue that this act of heroism does not make sense for Boo based on his character, it actually makes perfect sense if close attention is paid to Boo's true character. So in other words, I'm saying yes, Boo should save Jem and Scout. This makes sense for him. That's what my introduction looks like. You can use this video, replay it, you can pause on this screen, and it can help you to write your introduction. So now it's time for you to get started. Thanks. Good luck.
Created using Powtoon.